Hackmons is a competitive Pokemon format where the game is pushed to its absolute limits, and you can pull off some serious nonsense. But what is Hackmons? If it wasn't obvious from the name, this is a format where you can use hacked Pokemon. That means you can fully edit everything about your Pokemon, give them any ability you want and any moves you want as well. There are two kinds of Hackmons formats. Pure Hackmons, where there are no rules at all, and everything is allowed. And then there's balanced Hackmons, where certain Pokemon, abilities or moves that are particularly overpowered do get banned. The name Balanced Hackmons sounds contradictory, but this format aims to maintain the fun of having fully customizable, hacked Pokemon, while preserving some level of order and structure, and it's treated as a genuine competitive format. Some banned abilities include Wonder Guard, Shadow Tag, and Huge Power, and banned Pokemon include Mega Rayquaza or Mega Mewtwo X. It should be easy to see why these things are banned, but sometimes banned options in Balanced Hackmons look a little weird. Shedinja is banned in Gen 8 and 9 Balanced Hackmons. This is a ZU ranked Pokemon. And Cramorant Gorging is also banned from being used in Balanced Hackmons. And there are some weird ability bans too, like Liquid Ooze. This ability is a simple one. It just deals damage to the enemy if they hit you with a life-draining effect. Why would this be banned? It's not even that good in the actual game. In a world with hacked Pokemon, sometimes things can be uniquely broken in ways you never would have dreamed. And as weird as they look, these bans were all deserved. Let's take a look at some of the strangest ways you can break the game with hacks in Pokemon's most insane competitive format. Consider checking out my petition with Makeship if you'd like an Iron Mugulis plush to be brought into this world. Thank you. So why is Shedinja banned from Balanced Hackmons? Alongside Pokemon like Mega Rayquaza and Mega Mewtwo X, is Shedinja on that level of power? Well, with hacks, yes it is, actually. Shedinja is an interesting case because it actually doesn't want to use its normal broken ability, Wonder Guard. Many Pokemon would kill to have this ability, but not Shedinja. Wonder Guard grants an immunity to all incoming hits unless they are super effective. And this is a banned ability in Balanced Hackmons, as I mentioned earlier, for obvious reasons. On the right Pokemon, this makes you immune to most hits in the game, which is very difficult to play around. Where Shedinja, with the power of hacks on its side, would rather choose a more basic ability in this environment that actually turns it into an unkillable monster. And that is the ability Sturdy. Sturdy allows a Pokemon to survive on 1 HP if they are one-hit KO'd from full health. So if you're at full health and you would be one-hit KO'd, you instead survive on 1. And it's not that broken of an ability or anything. It's on plenty of Pokemon and none of them are overpowered. But on Shedinja specifically, because Shedinja only has one single point of HP, 1 HP is its full HP, and therefore it is always at both full HP and 1 HP at the same time. So if you attack Shedinja, it survives on 1 HP and it also is at full health, so it's basically invincible. Shedinja is immune to all incoming hits, effectively, thanks to Sturdy. It should be pretty easy to see why that's so strong. Shedinja cannot be defeated by most things in the game. You can defeat it with indirect damage like Sandstorm damage, poison damage, effects like Leech Seed or Rocky Helmet. But Shedinja is immune to many things, and in Generation 8 specifically, which is where it got banned first, Shedinja has access to heavy-duty boots. One of the biggest and most targetable weak points of Shedinja before this was its hazard weakness. Just a single layer of spikes will KO Shedinja immediately, because it only has 1 HP. But now that it can ignore hazards, Shedinja skyrocketed to new levels of power. It was a significant get for Shedinja to be able to ignore hazards. And since you can hack any moves onto Shedinja that you want, you can take even further advantage of its measly 1 HP. The move Endeavor deals damage to the enemy based on how little HP that you have. It sets the enemy's HP to the same value as yours, so Shedinja has 1 HP. With Endeavor, you will set them to 1 HP, and you can easily KO them with any priority move, residual damage, or whatever after that. And this is slightly dangerous on Shedinja though, because if the enemy is running a Rocky Helmet, you will make contact with them and faint and lose all your health. So Shedinja can instead run Pain Split, which is another way to take advantage of its 1 HP. Pain Split will average both Pokemon's HP and set both of them to the average. Since Shedinja has just 1 HP, you are pretty much subtracting a bunch of HP from the enemy by clicking Pain Split, which is also a very effective strategy. Shedinja can also run utility options like spikes, pivoting moves, and stealth rock, and whatever it really needs. Knock off to get rid of items. Spirit Shackle is an interesting option to trap enemies with you. It's especially effective if they can't defeat you. You can just 1v1 certain targets with Shedinja actually, and completely defeat them. So even though there are ways to defeat this, the counterplay is limited, and Shedinja can also just come in against things at walls, make progress and get out of there, which is a little bit broken and kind of annoying. So even if you can hit it with like Moongeist Beam or whatever, Sunsteel Strike, attacks that ignore abilities. Effects like Sandstorm can be effective against Shedinja as well. Shedinja will at least wall some of your team, and that is enough for Shedinja to just come in every time against those Pokemon and cause a fuss, getting free progress every time. And it gets significant progress with options like Endeavor and Pain Split and all the other utility it can choose to run. So that's why Shedinja got banned in Gen 8 and 9 balanced Hackmons, and I think it's pretty deserved. But you can't deny that this is a very uniquely broken Pokemon, and it looks a bit out of place alongside Mega Mewtwo X, doesn't it? But they are peers in this world. In this world, Shedinja and Mega Mewtwo X are equals. Now, it should come as no surprise to learn that whatever the fastest Pokemon in any given generation is, tends to be a very powerful choice in Hackmons, because they can move first and use strong moves, whatever moves they want, in fact. For most of the Pokemon franchise, this was Deoxys Speed, but as recently as Gen 8, it became Regieleki as the new fastest Pokemon in existence. And there are some pretty obvious ways to abuse these fast Pokemon. One of them is with No Guard, an ability that makes all moves perfectly accurate for both opponents, and one-hit KO moves, like Sheer Cold and Fissure. These moves just simply one-hit KO the enemy. They defeat them in a single fell swoop. But they're inaccurate, they're only 30 accuracy. But of course with No Guard they become perfectly accurate and you can just one-hit anything. Obviously overpowered, and one-hit KO moves are banned for that reason. Another popular way to take advantage of fast Pokemon is to just put Spore on them. Fast Sleep. It's a tale as old as time. It's an incredibly powerful mechanic, especially in singles. And sleep moves are banned in Ballast Hackmons too, funnily enough. But another way that these fast Pokemon became game-breaking was with an interesting ability, and that is Comatose. Comatose is the ability of Komala, everybody's favorite koala-themed Pokemon. And this ability says that the Pokemon is treated as if they are asleep at all times. This means that you're effectively immune to status. Since the game is treating you as asleep, you can't be affected by any other status ailments. That's reason enough for this to be a great ability, and it's probably the strongest thing about the ability usually. But there's another broken aspect to this ability, and that is because you can use Sleep Talk with Comatose. Because you're considered to be asleep, you can just use Sleep Talk directly, a move that usually is only allowed to be used when you're asleep. What's the benefit of this, you might ask? Well, in Balanced Hackmons, remember, you can put any move you want onto your Pokemon. So if you have a set with just Sleep Talk and Whirlwind, Sleep Talk will use another move on your set, Whirlwind is the only move, and then Whirlwind will be used with Speed. Whirlwind usually has negative priority, but because it's being called by Sleep Talk, you can Whirlwind with an override on this negative priority, and on something fast like Regieleki, you can just infinitely rack up hazard damage and there is little to be done about it. You can Sleep Talk Whirlwind, pull in their Pokemon, they take hazard damage, and you just eventually win. There are, of course, Boots and Magic Guard and stuff to counteract this, but still, it's a broken idea, and it's a bit uninteractive. Another way that you can take advantage of Sleep Talk in Gen 9, alongside Comatose, is with the move Revival Blessing. Revival Blessing is a newly introduced move in Gen 9 that acts like the revive item from the single-player games. It will revive a Pokemon in your party at 50% of their HP, and it only has a single PP on it, so you can only use it once. There are ways to restore that 1 PP, like with a Leopard Berry, but even that is limited in how many times you can actually use Revival Blessing. But Sleep Talk has 16 PP. So if you have Sleep Talk, Comatose, and your only move is Revival Blessing, you can revive a Pokemon 16 times. And that's pretty powerful, isn't it? And in fact, you can revive another Regieleki with Sleep Talk and Revival Blessing in pure Hackmons and just continuously revive one another. This is a unique example of hacks allowing you to bypass the inbuilt checks and balances of certain moves. Whirlwind is supposed to have negative priority, otherwise it would be broken. Revival Blessing would be broken if it had a lot of PP. But Sleep Talk and Comatose allows you to ignore these drawbacks and get all upside. And that is why Comatose is a banned ability in Balanced Hackmons for good reason. And you're probably wondering why Liquid Ooze was banned from Balanced Hackmons. What the hell is so broken about this ability? It's not even that good in the main games. It has application sometimes. It can counteract Leech Seed, moves like Giga Drain, Draining Kiss, etc. But it's niche at best. It's an underwhelming ability. But in Balanced Hackmons, it has a very high value application. One of the best moves in the entire game is Strength Sap. Not many Pokemon get this move, but it is fantastic. Strength Sap will lower the enemy's attack by 1 stage and then heal you based on their attack stat. So in many instances against a high attack Pokemon, this will just fully heal you while also crippling them a little bit, lowering their attack. It's clear to see why this is so good, and any Pokemon that actually gets this in the main games is loving life as a result. But in Hackmons, you can just put this on anything. And it's everywhere. It's a fantastic way to heal and even punish sweepers. But remember, Liquid Ooze deals damage to the enemy for as much as they would heal from an HP draining effect. And Strength Sap is considered to be an HP draining effect. So if you click Strength Sap against a high attack Pokemon with Liquid Ooze, you will just one-hit yourself. You will just perish in a single moment faster than you can even blink. You could view this as valid counterplay to the move Strength Sap, a very powerful move, a very omnipresent move in the format, but at the same time, this is a very extreme form of counterplay to something. You just faint instantly if you even click the move. That is pretty crazy. You could, of course, just not use Strength Sap and not open up the risk to this at all. But I suppose the Balanced Hackmon community wanted access to this broken move. I mean, broken moves are half the fun of Balanced Hackmons in the first place. So they decided to ban Liquid Ooze so that Strength Sap could be used safe. And there is still a bit of counterplay to Strength Sap. Magic Bounce will bounce the effect back to the enemy. They will lower their attack and you will heal instead. It's actually a pretty hard punish. That is not as hard of a punish as Liquid Ooze was. While the other bans I've mentioned here are a bit more clearly broken, this one is a bit more debated. Some people wanted this in the game as a punish to Strength Sap, but I think I'm of the opinion that such extreme counterplay tends to be an unhealthy thing. So I understand the ban. And it's one of those things where this ability literally has no other application except to hard punish Strength Sap. So that's so specific that in a metagaming sense, it's not even really that worth it to run this. It's probably better to run Magic Bounce because it's more consistent in other situations. It has more application in other contexts. So really running Liquid Ooze within the metagame sounds like a bad option, and yet it punishes something so significantly. I don't know, maybe you could view that as it having opportunity cost. I view that as skewing matchups even more. I'm sure Strength Sap would probably still be used because people don't expect Liquid Ooze to come out and then it would just get a random KO. So I can sort of understand the logic behind banning it as it adds that sort of variance to the game. Another funny banned ability in Balanced Hackmons is Innards Out, the ability of Pyukumuku. This ability has a pretty unique effect. If the Pokemon is knocked out and faints, you deal damage to the attacker equal to the amount of damage you just took to get knocked out. And this can very easily be abused, especially on a Pokemon like Blissey. Blissey has incredible bulk and a massive HP stat, and crucially, it takes a high amount of damage from physical attacks because it has so much HP to lose. Dealing damage to Blissey will often result in the enemy just KOing it, activating Innards Out, and then dying themselves. And on top of this, a Blissey with Innards Out is still a very strong utility Pokemon that can wall special attackers, click utility moves, so this is often going to trade up. And if you try to actually KO the thing, you will be KOing yourself. It's quite a rough position to be put in. So Innards Out was also banned from Balanced Hackmons for the awkward situations it created and the way that it forced positive trades in a rather unhealthy way. And you must be curious as to why Cramorant was banned from Balanced Hackmons. What is going on there? Cramorant is an interesting Pokemon with a unique ability, Gulp Missile. If Cramorant uses the moves Surf or Dive, it will dive under the water and catch a Pokemon in its mouth, entering a new form in doing so. If you enter the Gulping form and you take damage from an incoming attack, the attacker will lose 1/4 of their HP and receive a defense drop. If you enter the Cramorant Gorging form, wherein you have a Pikachu inside of your mouth, the enemy will lose their HP and be paralyzed. That's a pretty high impact effect on hit. After this effect takes place, you transform back into the normal Cramorant. So what's the problem? I mean, Cramorant has a very unique ability with a pretty high value effect in certain situations, but you have to surf to enter these forms, or dive, and the Pokemon stats are pretty bad on top of that. The thing is though, because this is Hackmons, you can just directly use Cramorant Gorging, the one with the Pikachu in its mouth. And that means if you simply switch in and take an incoming hit, the enemy will lose 1/4 of their max HP and be paralyzed. You will then transform back into normal Cramorant, but if you switch out and back in, it resets you back to the Gorging form. So every single time you bring Cramorant Gorging onto the field, the enemy is frightened to ever attack you. They're going to lose a significant amount of health and get paralyzed in the process. On top of this, usually Cramorant is using its ability slot, the Gulp Miss ability, to inflict this effect, but Cramorant Gorging could just run any ability at once. Maybe that's Magic Bounce for some utility, or whatever else your team really needs. Maybe Fur Coat, just to live extra hits. And this turned out to be really annoying, really powerful, and evidently ban-worthy. Cramorant Gorging is illegal to use in balanced Hackmons, and for very good reason. These examples go to show that with hacks, crazy things are possible in Pokemon. You can break the game in very unique ways, and sometimes the most frustrating strategies are not, a powerful legendary dealing a million damage, but some weird abuse of a mechanical quirk that results in uninteractive or uncompetitive gameplay. Thank you for watching, folks. Consider supporting my make ship petition for the Iron Mugulis plush, and I will catch you all later.